Hello, everybody. It's Zach here from RealEstateLicenseWizard.com. How's it going today? Hopefully pretty good. Today, we're talking about real estate economics. Now, in this video, we're going to define real estate economics, real estate markets, participants, talk about how it all deals with real estate, and of course, cover what you need to know for the real estate exam. All right, let's get started. So, what is real estate economics? Well, real estate economics is the application of economic techniques in real estate. Now, the primary purpose of real estate economics is to explain and predict patterns of prices utilizing supply and demand. Supply and demand is the core principle and foundation of modern economics. I'm sure most of you guys have heard of the phrase before, supply and demand, but what does that mean and how does it apply to us and in real estate? Well, we're going to talk about that. Demand refers to how much of a product or service is wanted by buyers. Supply represents how much the market can offer. Think of supply and demand like a scale. Usually if one side rises, the other lowers, just like this picture. So generally speaking, low supply and high demand means increased prices. In contrast, the greater the supply and the lower the demand, prices tend to fall. Now, it's worth mentioning when we're talking about supply and demand and real estate markets that they slowly adapt. Real estate markets usually adjust pretty slowly compared to other markets for many reasons. It could take weeks, months, or longer, but it does change, and of course, it changes substantially. The exception is if something drastic happens, like maybe a natural disaster, or maybe a construction of a new factory comes in where thousands of people, need new jobs and they move to a certain area, then of course a market can adjust rapidly. But generally speaking, when we're talking about real estate markets, they adjust slowly. So let me give you guys an example of supply and demand in real estate. So imagine a big city where demand is high for property. So many people want into this booming city that eventually the supply of available property or houses lowers. Because of the lack of the available houses, people can sell their houses at a higher price. Like a scale, one side rises, the other lowers. Does that make sense? That is supply and demand. If you can understand that, you're so far ahead of everybody else already. So next we have to talk about real estate markets and participants in real estate markets. So who makes up these markets? Well, the participants do. Users, owners, renters, developers, renovators, and facilitators are the main participants in real estate markets. Now we're going to look at them and define them. So keep in mind before we get started on these, that these definitions may vary slightly depending on where you're located, but these are the general terms for the United States. So to start off, users. Users are the this participant purchases property to live in it. So if you buy a house, you're a user. If you want to live in it and you buy it to live in it, you're a user. Or the other way they could be user is if they purchase property to run their business out of. That would be a user. Next term is an owner. So these people are purely real estate investors. They do not occupy the property. They instead just rent it or lease it to another party. Now, who's that other party? Well, that other party is going to be renters, which is our next one. Now, these people are just purely consumers. It's as simple as that. Next one is developers. These people buy raw land and develop buildings on it to be sold on the market. And then renovators, these people flip or refurbish properties. And then lastly, facilitators. These people act as the catalyst for the purchase and sale of real estate. This includes banks, real estate brokers, lawyers, and more. That's going to be you if you pass the exam and get your real estate license, or maybe it is you already. Now, if you didn't notice already when we're looking at these sets of participants, that they actually each make up one side of the supply and demand. So, for example, users, owners, and renters form the demand side of the market, while owners, developers, and renovators form the supply side. Owners are on both sides because their choices directly can affect both supply and demand. Hopefully that makes sense. So why are real estate markets so unique? Well, real estate economics and real estate markets are unique for many factors, but mainly because they have a certain set of characteristics that the market must accommodate for. Now, these characteristics include both physical characteristics as well as economic characteristics. So we have to define those. Okay, so this first set is physical characteristics. So there's 3 of them that you need to know. Indestructibility, meaning the land can't be destroyed or worn out. Its appearance may be altered, but it always continues to exist. Immobility, meaning geographical location of the property remains the same and never can be changed. It is in a fixed position. And then lastly, uniqueness, just meaning no parcels of real estate are exactly alike. Now, the next section of characteristics are the economic characteristics, or labeled as other characteristics. So we got a couple of these ones. So scarcity, meaning the total supply is fixed. Land is not limitless. I mean, think about it. Yeah, the earth is huge and we might, never run out of land, but it's not limitless. There will be a limit. There technically is a limit. And that is an important characteristic that the market has to define in real estate. Next one would be improvements, also known as modifications, just meaning improvements to a piece of land can either positively or negatively affect its value. Permanence of investment, meaning investments in real estate are long-term. Since real estate transactions are complex and lots of money involved, transactions are not made very frequently. So if you guys have been paying attention, hopefully you have, remember when I was talking about earlier how these things take a while, markets slowly adapt? Well, this is part of the reason right here. You can't sell a house and close in like 7 days. I mean, it's insane. The average day for closing as of right now in 2020 is 45 days. So these transactions take time. And when we're talking about economics as a whole, if you go and buy a loaf of bread, that's instant. That's an instant transaction. These things take time and the market has to accommodate for that. But yeah, a little bit of a tangent there, but super important. And hopefully that made sense. And then lastly, location or area preference, meaning some people just genuinely like to live in a certain area. So, when we're looking at these markets as a whole, it doesn't matter, that so many people are moving to a certain area if a certain section of people only want to live in another area. Hope that makes sense. But again, when we're talking about markets and real estate economics and its uniqueness, it's because of this. People individually choose where they want to live because of families, work, things like that. And that is something that the market has to accommodate for. So both sets of characteristics, physical and economic, establish real estate as one of the most unique markets. Now, with that in mind, it's important to remember each one of these characteristics as they separate the real estate markets from the rest. So lastly, what we're going to be talking about is why is all this so important? Well, mastering real estate economics can help real estate agents, investors, more brokers. I mean, it's going to help you in your career. So understanding the market can directly lead to success. Now, the market is such a powerful force, and some experts can actually use the force to predict trends and make millions of dollars, which I'm sure you guys have seen the videos where someone's talking about real estate economics and how, they cracked the code and they made millions of dollars investing, things like that. But I mean, there's some truth to these things and to these people. Real estate markets are so powerful. You can make so much money if you're in the right position and, you're doing things correctly. So yeah, that's just all the more reason why all this stuff is just so important. So what do you need to know for the real estate exam? We talked about pretty much everything here, but let's talk about one last thing, what you need to know for the real estate exam. So what's important to the real estate exam is you need to understand supply and demand, like we talked about earlier. You need to understand the participants, as I mentioned, the participants in the markets. That comes up pretty largely in a lot of states specific, especially like California and New York, where the real estate investing, stuff like that shows up on the exam. So if you're in one of those states, I encourage you guys to really study that list of participants. And, if you're in any other state, you're still going to need to know it. But I say New York, Florida, and California especially, know your participants. And then, of course, the sets of characteristics we were talking about earlier. So the physical and economic. You need to know all that stuff for the real estate exam. And knowledge of that aspect is also going to help you in your real estate career as well. So don't think it's one of these things where it's like, oh yeah, I'll just learn for the real estate exam and forget about it. Because as I mentioned, this stuff is so powerful. If you can understand it, you're going to be so far better off than all your competitors. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it about real estate economics. You guys did it. You lasted the whole video. Congratulations. Thank you so much. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We do videos like this all the time. We do daily questions. We have long exams, all this good stuff. Yeah, it's a fun time. And it's great for you if you are interested in real estate or if you're studying for the exam. all that good stuff. But yeah, enough about me, enough about us. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, this is Zach from RealEstateLicenseWizard.com. Make today magical. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.